Great stuff. Senator McSherry, you have just come out of the banking inquiry, which cost the state or the taxpayer about $5.5 million. Was it worth it?
Well, I think it was worth it for the public hearings that went on in terms of the evidence that we got. I suppose the first thing to say is I wouldn't have started from there at all. I mean, my preference and the Fianna Fáil preference was for a Leveson-style inquiry, free from the constraints of the electoral cycle, judicial-led and with real teeth, which unfortunately an Oireachtas inquiry was not going to have in the context of, if you remember the recent referendum, we voted against empowering Oireachtas committees to, I suppose, be able to make findings of fact against individuals or institutions. So there was a huge amount of constraints on the work. Notwithstanding that, I think that what was produced in the report represent a reasonable account of the evidence given, and some of it was new. So in that sense, it certainly was beneficial. I believe that in the earlier part of the inquiry in particular, there was an unhealthy influence from a higher authority. Whether that was government, whether it was the central bank, the Department of Finance or others, I think that there are issues that were raised by the whistleblower, which were not pursued and investigated at the time, and indeed with extraordinary haste to seek to throw that whistleblower under a bus. Okay. And in real terms, what I'd like to see now is a further investigation into what went on in the central bank during the period, because I think from the evidence I've seen, much of the story, I mean, the political blame is not in doubt, the bank's blame is not in doubt, but I am comfortable with the evidence that I've seen, that certainly there were dissenters within the central bank who were highlighting difficulties much earlier than the central bank are prepared to say, and that if that was acted upon, it certainly could have mitigated against the depth of the crisis.
Right. Senator McSherry, I remember from our conversation at the Big Ticket 5 years ago, this was very close to your own heart. And how do you feel? You must be happy now that at least this part of the service is returning to Sligo.
Any investment in the hospital is of course welcome. The issue with the cancer services was wrong then, it remains wrong today, and Fianna Fáil, my party, got their answer quite justifiably at the time. So it's investment in the hospital that we need, and I have concerns. You saw over the recent years where I exposed government plans to downgrade maternity service in the region and produce that report. I have further concerns for other acute services in this hospital and in how the hospital group, the sale to hospital group are proceeding. Now, at some stage, some government is going to have to realise and accept that we have a culture in Ireland that people don't all live in cities. They live here in the northwest. We have a catchment of 260,000 people, and they are entitled to acute services. Ultimately, on the cancer side, it's the travel from Glencolmkill, from here in Sligo down to Galway on buses, which is stripping the dignity of people at their most vulnerable time. Ultimately, what I would like to see a government do is lay out a target for the provision of linear accelerators here in Sligo Hospital, where people could get radium treatment, and that would eliminate the need for travel. Certainly people could travel for their specialist surgery to James's or Galway or wherever, but the ability to come back here and have their ongoing treatment, where somebody might, for example, be getting 8 minutes radium treatment per day. Now that I know is a significant ask. It'll be about 5 million for 2 linear accelerators and approximately 5 million per year to run them, and of course you'd have to recruit the professionals to do that. But for our region, that must be the target. And if you go back to Professor Tom Keane, who was my nemesis in many ways in terms of the promotion of stripping out cancer services from certain parts of the country, even he has replicated now in northern Canada, where he's from, a satellite radiotherapy centre which is linked into the specialist centres and eliminates the need for people to have to travel for small amounts of radium treatment on a daily basis.
Thing.
Yes, oh no, it certainly is about any investment in this hospital is a positive thing for our region.
There's a lot of information coming out at the moment, and a lot of people believe that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael could actually get together to form this next government. Have you any comment on that, Senator McSherry?
Well, when it comes to these matters, I'd very much be guided by the people. This is the people's country. They will decide the outcome of the election, and then it's a matter of how the numbers stack, presumably. So I will be guided by the people on that. I have to say that much of the talk of who will form what coalitions and the rhetoric about so-and-so not being prepared to go in with so-and-so else is really, with respect to your good self, media-driven. I think probably what all three of us are focused on is trying to maximise the vote, listen to the issues, and make sure that we were representing them to the best of our ability. And the most important thing is that a government is formed, and a solid government for the people. But I would have no preconditions, I would have no prerequisites in terms of what should happen after the fact. That is solely a matter for the people, and I'll respect their decision, whatever that is.
Deputy Perry, you just wanted to...
Yeah, just one thing on jobs, and I think in the context of this election, I mean, in this region there's 250 empty retail units, there are more than 50 empty factories. And the one thing that's crystal clear, apart from any coalitions, is the 4 people elected from this constituency, when they go to Leinster House, will have to be, for the first time, be prepared to act as one if we're going to be able to deliver for this region.
Great.
Our region has never been provided with the resources to perform to our potential. And with the increased focus on the East Coast, we're going to have to fight our corner in a different way to secure those resources. That's why I said the 4 that are elected will have to learn to act as one if we're to secure that. Unlike my 2 colleagues, I haven't yet been a member of Dáil Éireann. I haven't had the pleasure to be a member of Dáil Éireann. But over the last 20 years in the service industry, in agricultural exports, and as a member of the Oireachtas and a member of the Seanad, I believe I've developed the skills and the fighting approach and articulation that's necessary to begin to secure the resources that are necessary for us here in Sligo and the Northwest to reach our potential.
Gentlemen, thank you.